Hello, class. Once again, my name is Brian Sutherland, and this is for Ball State University SPC E638-830. Today, I'll be discussing what me and one of the other interns did at our location, or at a clinical location, excuse me, for creating thematics lessons for pre-K kids. So, developing the interventions is where I wanted to start. So we have a group of mainly older children that are higher functioning and are on the track to go to pre-K or kindergarten. Our BCBA was wanting to create a more formal style of learning for the children to get them more prepared for school so that we set them up for success being in a classroom scenario, sitting for extended amounts of time, getting used to answer questions from one authority figure instead of multiple therapists at a time. We did still have all of the therapists. Say there were 6 kids in the room, there were still 6 therapists, um, while the one therapist was leading the class for everybody. So, ideas for the intervention. Myself and the other intern at my center came up with the idea of a multi-step intervention. And by multi-step, I do not mean task analysis, as we're not just going through steps of a whole. It is different interventions made for each lesson. So we developed a sheet, and for example, the first lesson was about winter. On the sheet we had 6 different items, such as beanie, gloves, boots, snowflakes, hot chocolate, and reindeer. So we made different questions for each 6 of them. One would be listener responding, one would be tacting, and one would be interverbal. So each type of intervention had a different question associated with it, so the children could generalize between all concepts at once. So for example, Beanie would have had a tacting, an interverbal, and a listener responding. For example, when it's cold outside, I put on my show me what this is, or tell me what this is, or touch the beanie. Those would just be examples of the different interventions that were all ran during thematics. So this is just going over the details, kind of more in depth of how it was ran. Each child has their own assigned seat with a name and picture on, which I guess just for HIPAA reasons, we did make sure we had parental permission and signed waivers for all the children participating before taking their pictures. So the session would be run for 30 minutes with a break in between at 15 minutes for a game or activity, or even some coloring or making pictures. For example, we would play ring toss for one of our breaks, which lasted usually about 5 minutes. Each child would get a turn and then would return to their seats after the game was over. So this, while we're working on like the tacting, listener responding, and introverbals, we also got to work on, denied access and tolerating unpreferred items. So not every kid every time, wanted to play ring toss. Some kid wanted to draw, but in a classroom scenario, you don't really get that option. It's, you kind of are doing this or not really doing anything, at least from my experience in school. Another example of stuff we would like to do is make an artwork. So during the holidays, we created um, ornaments that we would had the kids cut out and draw on, and then we put one of their pictures in the dead center of the ornament so they could take it home to their families and say display it on their fridge or hang it on the wall or make a scrapbook. We just had the idea of making it more like a normal school day so that the parents still felt included and got to take home cool stuff from their kids and show it off. So for our data collection, we used a program called Central Reach for data collection and graphing. For this portion, I went in and wrote different programs pertaining to the 3 different types of learning associated with the different lessons. So it's kind of like I mentioned earlier, I actually went into Central Reach and wrote the interventions and added them to each one of the child's behavior plans or intervention plans, excuse me, so that way data was collected each day during thematics, and we could see who was making progress and mastering out of programs, while some who may needed a little bit of extra attention or help with prompting. And kind of like I stated earlier too, with running the games and everything, the children seemed for the most part to enjoy coming to thematics each day, as a time for them to be social with their peers and play a game or get to color kind of freely without having to move straight back into lessons right away. You got more than a minute or two with your stuff. You got to almost finish an entire artwork. And if we didn't finish anything in the 5 minutes, we would normally give it a little bit of leeway just so the kids could finish their stuff. That way, after thematics, we could continue to work on other things and not really worry about finishing stuff that was from that just 30-minute interval. So, and I just kind of want to go over, since the two topics this week were rule governed behaviors and response classes. So, developing the intervention or the program, we did take into account both rule governed behavior and, the response classes, mainly because having that one individual teacher giving directions, is very, very much in line with rule governed behavior and what the kids will face in a normal classroom. But at the same time, response classes, due to the, different lessons with the same common answers, there were three things being ran just on reindeer at all times for the kids. And, I really think that helped with them generalize what different types of wording or how you could respond to people within the lesson could be. But thank you very much for listening to my PowerPoint. I hope you have a great rest of the day.